Is Dejan Kulusevski the best midfielder in the Premier League at the moment? I think it would be quite hard to argue against it after his brilliant man of the match performance yesterday helped Spurs dismantle West Ham 4-1 in the London derby at lunchtime. Dejan Kulusevski has been excellent for Spurs so far this season, but I think yesterday we saw him go to another level. Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, we're going to break down the West Ham victory as we always do after these big Premier League games, so make sure to subscribe for the next one. In this video, I want to talk about Dejan Kulusevski's role on and off the ball and why he shined yesterday and why he was the man of the match. I, of course, want to talk about the tactical change that won Spurs the game with Pape Matar Sarr coming on for James Maddison at half-time. I also want to talk about Dominic Solanke and his selfless role and why he is facilitating Tottenham's ability to kill teams in transition. And I also want to talk about Son Heung-Min because I thought he was back to his best yesterday. And in particular, I want to talk about his relationship with Destiny Udogie down that left-hand side. This is, of course, how Spurs set up yesterday. The team that we predicted, except for Bissouma coming back in for Rodrigo Bentancur. Bissouma, I thought, put in a really good performance yesterday. Pape Matar Sarr, of course, coming on at half-time for James Maddison, and we're going to talk about that tactical change in detail a little bit more later. But I want to start, of course, with the goals. Obviously, West Ham took the lead in this one, and they gave us a warning. They did give us a warning prior to the goal about how they could hurt us down that right-hand side with Jarrod Bowen. And it's something that Spurs have got to work on in terms of that one-on-one defending in certain situations. We saw that be our undoing at Brighton a couple of weeks ago. Destiny Udogie in particular struggling. This time, just before the goal, of course, Bowen was able to get in between Van der Ven and Udogie in that channel, able to square Van der Ven at 1v1, go past him, and Kudus was free at the back post. Obviously, this is exactly how they got their goal as well. It didn't quite come about like this, but Kudus being the spare man at that back post was something that Spurs were unable to track. But we should have been able to stop it getting to this position. Of course, Vicario makes the save. This is where the goal comes from. Loop ball into the box. Jarrod Bowen tries to bring it down on the chest. Udogie actually wins the tackle first time around, but it comes to Wan-Bissaka. Spurs clear. Udogie then loses that battle with Wan-Bissaka. I don't really have a problem with that. Wan-Bissaka is incredibly physical, of course. He beats him in the air. It falls to Bowen, and Udogie is wrong side. I feel for Destiny Udogie in this situation, of course, because I think any contact, Bowen is going to look for a penalty there. But the fact that he's wrong side means that he can't really make that challenge. Bowen's able to get to the byline, cut it back, and again, Kudus, nobody really marking him. Johnson tries to get across and he puts it in the net. So Spurs had the warning. We had that warning just before about how they would be able to hurt us. We spoke before the game about West Ham being able to hurt teams in transition with Bowen and Kudus. They couldn't really do that so much yesterday. Some of their build-up play was actually pretty good. And obviously, we spoke about before the game, West Ham adopting this more possession-based approach under Lopetegui. They're actually able to pass through us on a few occasions and sustain that pressure, which actually hurt us, rather than just sitting in and hitting us on the counter-attack with the pace that they've got. So Bowen and Kudus working really well, and they were their two outstanding players yesterday. Obviously, Mohamed Kudus, the moment of madness at the end, but up until that, he was their main threat. But Spurs got back into the game. I didn't think it was a bad first half performance from Spurs. Even up until that point, we controlled the game. Obviously, West Ham did hurt us and got that goal. But I did think that we were going to break through and knock down that door eventually. West Ham set up very organised, very compact, made it difficult. And I think their commitment to defending is something that Spurs didn't quite show in that first half. They were putting bodies on the line. Spurs had 11, 12, 13 corners maybe in that first half. So we were able to sustain pressure. We just weren't able to unlock the door. And this is where Spurs' ability to hurt teams in transition comes into it. Rather than, obviously we know that we're going to have most of the possession, try and unlock low blocks like West Ham were sitting in yesterday. But we also know that when we are able to catch teams out and turn them over, we can really hurt teams. And that is where that goal came from yesterday. And I want to talk about Dominic Solanke in this move as well, because I don't think he necessarily got the credit that he deserved. Obviously, didn't get a goal yesterday, but I thought his all-round performance as that number 9, as that focal point for Spurs, was absolutely excellent. Actually, let's talk about Solanke first before we talk about the goal, because if you look at Spurs' average positions, there was a lot of interesting stuff to pick out yesterday. Again, you can see the difference between when James Maddison was on the pitch compared to when Pape Matar Sarr was on the pitch, obviously in terms of that position, sitting back a little bit deeper, just breaking up the play and allowing us to go forward in transition really well. But if you look at Dominic Solanke, he's the deepest out of that front 5 in terms of his average position. And like I said, his selfless role is facilitating Tottenham's ability to kill teams in transition. And I don't think, because obviously he scored 2 goals in the league so far, and people for £65 million will look at the goals, but you look at that performance yesterday and tell me that he isn't improving this Spurs side, and you're wrong. He was absolutely excellent yesterday and plays a key part in this first goal, or in the equalising goal for Spurs. So Dejan Kulusevski, again, who we're going to come on and talk about, who scores this goal, commits to that duel against Lucas Paquetá, puts him off, shoves him to the ground. But again, it's not an easy one for Solanke to go in and win here. Gets in there just before Souček. This reminded me of Harry Kane. Though winning those duels allowing Spurs to play on the counter-attack. Harry Kane was so good at that. It wasn't just his playmaking that facilitated Spurs' ability to hurt teams in transition under Antonio Conte. It was his ability to win these 50-50 challenges on the halfway line and then set Spurs up the pitch. So he just nips in there. And then look at this situation that Spurs find themselves in with runners. And again, this is why I'm not so bothered about Dominic Solanke's ability to score goals so much in this team. Of course, I want him to score goals, but his overall play facilitates so much going forward for Spurs. And I want to talk about that a little bit later with some other examples as well. But James Maddison, who was obviously taken off at half-time, drives Spurs up the pitch here really well. And when you've got Son Heung-Min, Brennan Johnson and Dejan Kulusevski, 3 players that can really hurt teams 1v1, it doesn't really matter that your striker isn't in the picture here for me, because you've got 2 players, especially in Johnson and Son, who are able to finish 1v1 really well if they get their opportunity, as we saw later down the line with Son Heung-Min's goal. Maddison carries it, Kulusevski peels out to the right, and this is where he can really hurt teams on that right wing. Obviously, he's playing in a central area at the moment for Spurs. And again, if you look at his average position, look at how central he actually is operating as that kind of as a pure number 10, really. Certainly, especially in that second half when you bring Pape Matar Sarr into the equation. That is much more of almost a 4-2-3-1 with Bissouma and Sarr kind of sitting as that base in midfield and Kulusevski, Johnson and Son behind Dominic Solanke. But like I said, if Solanke is winning duels in this situation, the firepower that Spurs have got going forward when they are able to turn the ball over is frightening. But Kulusevski, this is what he was able to do really well when he did play on the wing in these 1v1 situations, was use his ability to cut inside and get the shot away. He gets a little bit of luck, obviously, the fact that Areola tips it onto the post, it hits both posts. But if anyone deserves a bit of luck in this Spurs team, it is Dejan Kulusevski for the way that he's been performing. And we've got some stats to illustrate exactly how well he played in that first half yesterday and in the game overall. But his first half in particular, 6 duels won, 6 times possession won. And I spoke about the fact that his on and off the ball role in this system is making Spurs a really dangerous side. So good in the duel, so good in the 50-50, but so devastating going forward as well. 3 shots, 2 successful take-ons, 2 tackles again as well. Talking about his off-the-ball ability. 2 fouls, 1 as well, and I want to highlight that shortly when we talk about his overall performance. 1 shot on target and, of course, 1 goal. And obviously, he gets the assist for Son Heung-Min for the 3rd goal as well. I know it went down as an own goal, but Kulusevski facilitates that, and we're going to talk about that shortly. But if you go back to his overall game statistics, 8 duels won, 8 times possession won, 7 touches in the opposition box. Obviously had a bit more of a freer role in that second half. 4 shots, 3 tackles, 3 fouls, 1, 2 chances created, 2 successful take-ons, 1 goal. What a player. What a player indeed. Brilliant goal for Dejan Kulusevski, but there was so much else that I loved about his performance. How many times have we seen him do this? And this is where Spurs can really unlock these low blocks, compact defences that want to sit in and make it difficult, is the combination play between James Maddison and Kulusevski on the edge of the box. We've seen this exact bit of combination play so many times this season, in pre-season and in the Premier League. Maddison dropping that little bit deeper, that little outside of the foot pass, and what does Dejan Kulusevski do? That little trademark back heel round the corner to Destiny Udogie, who again finds himself in more of an inverted position, is able to get the ball across for Pedro Porro. If that went in, sorry, let me just move my camera here. If that sort of scissor kick volley from Pedro Porro went in, we're talking about one of Spurs' goals of the season there. So he's unlucky there. Obviously, Dejan Kulusevski, the creator, shown here, but I also want to talk about how well he is able to beat his man, able to lure them in and get past them. He's not got explosive pace, Dejan Kulusevski, but what he has got is such intelligent football IQ in these sort of situations, in tight spaces. And I've got a few examples of how he did that so well yesterday. Romero into him here. Thomas Souček and Paquetá putting pressure on him, but he's able to. The easy thing for him to do there would be to either lay it back to Pedro Porro, or maybe into Yves Bissouma and peel off him. But he just uses his body, manipulates it so well to turn away from Souček and Paquetá, and is able to drive forward. His fleet of foot and delicate touch for a big guy that hasn't got much pace just makes him so much more of a unicorn, so much more unique. You know, he's an unbelievable footballer, so intelligent, and able to pop it off to Maddison there. And something you can't quite see because of the way I framed the photo. Let me just move that across. Let me just move that across here. You can see that if James Maddison was able to get his head up in this situation, that has facilitated a really, really exciting opportunity for Spurs, where James Maddison could just play that ball first time through to Son Heung-Min, and he's in. But I think Maddison decides to cut inside. Again, not digging out Maddison for that, but I'm just saying, if he was able to do that, Spurs were in, and that's all down to the good work of Dejan Kulusevski. Here, again, Dejan Kulusevski gets the ball fired into his feet. Souček at his back. Again, talking about Dejan Kulusevski in tight spaces. There's no real room for him to move here. Faces up Kudus. Let me just move myself down here, sorry. Faces up Kudus. realises that there's nowhere really to go. Look at this touch to flick it away from Kudus, and then he just drives. And again, now you can see his kind of running power in full flight as well here, and his ability to beat a man with that kind of muscle and that burst. And again, he just leaves Antonio in the dirt there, and he's able to really open up the pitch and open up the spaces there. Like I said, so good at operating in tight spaces. Again here, this time you'd expect him potentially, some other players would just play that safe and just play this ball back into Yves Bissouma here. But no. And again, I think there's been this perception of Dejan Kulusevski that he's all left foot, because of the way that he likes to carry the ball. But look how he opens up the space here. Again, like I said, the easy thing to do would be to play that safe pass back into Yves Bissouma. But no, takes the risky option with his right foot, opens up his body and draws that foul. Like I said, that ability to draw fouls and free kicks. Again, when he gets into these wide positions here, we're going to talk about something similar in a bit to what he did in this move, obviously, for the third goal. But again here, when he does find himself in these 1v1 situations out wide, he's able to slow the play down, just check and play that little reverse pass into Porro there. So cute, so much disguise. He was excellent yesterday. And like I said, on and off the ball, he is working so hard for this Spurs side. And he's putting up numbers that are incomparable to kind of any other player in Europe at the moment. If you look at these numbers, just ridiculous. Most key passes out of any midfielder in the Premier League, also the most in Europe. Same for progressive runs, same for most accelerations as well. I talked about the fact that he's not particularly quick, but he has got that burst, most deep completions as well, most dribbles per 90 and most offensive duels per 90. This graph that you can see here is progressive runs and progressive passes per 90 out of all Premier League midfielders, and he is out on his own there right at the top. An excellent performance from Dejan Kulusevski yesterday that helped facilitate that 4-1 victory when things weren't going so well in that first half. Again, I've spoke so many times about Dejan Kulusevski, how he is able to put this team on its back when the chips are down, when things aren't going so well. And Spurs weren't playing badly in that first half by any stretch, but when things aren't quite working, he is the man to make something happen. His mentality is top. He said in the interview after the game that as soon as he scored that equaliser, he knew that we were going to go on and win the game. And that is exactly what we did. And let's move on now to the second goal that the Spurs scored. Spurs, brilliant. Came out flying, came out of the traps really well in that second half. And again, down to that tactical change by Ange Postecoglou. Pape Matar Sarr coming on, sitting that little bit deeper, Spurs being a little bit more pragmatic, shoring things up that little bit more. And he was just able to, we were just able to control the game really well. Pape Matar Sarr just destroying, breaking things up. And our ability to hurt West Ham on the turnover just increased by 10 times when Pape Matar Sarr was on the pitch. We spoke about the fact before the game that West Ham would leave gaps in transition. We showed some examples of how Chelsea were able to hurt them. And I think this is probably more relevant for the third and fourth goals, the space that they would leave. But I think Pape Matar Sarr's introduction into the game helped really open up the pitch and open up those spaces. So he did brilliantly yesterday. And again, like I said, that average position compared to James Maddison in that first half, it's just night and day. It looked a little bit more balanced, looked a little bit more structured for Spurs and really helped us hurt West Ham. But second goal comes from some brilliant decision making from Destiny Udogie, who kind of redeemed himself for the mistake that he made in that first half. And also, like I said earlier, when I want to talk about Son Heung-Min, I want to talk about the relationship with Destiny Udogie that he had yesterday. Because if you go back here and look at the average positions, both of them were actually staying quite wide. There were so many times where Udogie would make those inverted runs though, and Son would stay wider and allow Udogie to kind of go inside and go beyond him. But also there were so many times where Udogie would hug the width and allow Son to get into more of those central positions. And again, I think that was maybe the best balance that we've seen from their relationship so far this season. I think sometimes they've been getting in each other's way a little bit. But yesterday, I think that left-hand side really, really worked for Spurs. And again, we saw them linking up really, really well for the second goal. Let me just hide myself here. Pape Matar Sarr collects the ball out to Son Heung-Min, and the creativity that he has got from these wide positions, you can see that Destiny Udogie here is willing to make that move in behind Wan-Bissaka. Son, lovely ball outside of the foot to Destiny Udogie. And I think what so many fullbacks I think would do in this situation is just smash it across, because you've got, how many bodies you've got there? You've got Wan-Bissaka, Rodriguez, Todibo, Kilman, Emerson, all kind of on the edge of that 6-yard box. I think so many fullbacks would just want to smash that and hope it either takes a deflection, hope the striker's able to get onto it. But the composure that he shows here to turn back so easily in terms of his mobility, that's one thing Destiny Udogie has got so well, that kind of low centre of gravity. He's just able to spin Wan-Bissaka so quickly there. And again, because Solanke and Johnson are in the box, they've kind of dragged so many men in with them because they're concerned about that ball in. It creates that space on the edge of the box for Bissouma or Kulusevski to run onto it and score. And Bissouma, that's exactly what he does, puts it away. Third goal now. Again, Dom Solanke puts pressure on the goalkeeper. And this is where Pape Matar Sarr, well, it's actually Bissouma that wins the ball on the halfway line there. Nick's in there ahead of Paqueta to get it. Son Heung-Min onto it straight away. And again, look at how Spurs are flooding forward with numbers when they turn the ball over on the halfway line. Runners, that's what you've got there. Powerful runners. Sarr, Son, Kulusevski, Johnson out of picture. Solanke as well. And again, Son, great decision making. Kulusevski peels off to this right hand side. Lovely little ball with the outside of his foot. And again, I spoke about this earlier on with Dejan Kulusevski, that chance that he facilitated for Pedro Porro where he made that run inside him. Kulusevski just slows it down and plays that cheeky little reverse pass. But here, gets into a position on the edge of the box, faces a man up 1v1, can cut inside, and if I just move myself here, you can see that he's really opened up an angle for himself to actually have that shot and bend it in the corner. That is something that we all know that he is capable of. But the vision and the awareness that he has, eyes in the back of his head almost, to slow the game down and just wait for Sonny. He's committed 2 men there. Obviously, Emerson's not gone with Son. They've left the space, and again, great scoring opportunity. Again, it's a bit of a messy goal the way it goes in. Todibo gets something on it. Areola gets something on it. But again, the chance that Spurs have created there, all through Kulusevski's patience and his ability to recognise that Son Heung-Min is there. His awareness is just top in terms of his footballing IQ, something we spoke about so much. And again, fourth goal. This is where Pape Matar Sarr comes into it. And again, we've got some stats here to talk about Pape Matar Sarr's game. 1 assist, 1 chance created, 19 out of 20 accurate passes, 2 accurate long balls, 3 passes into the final third. Again, that ability to win the ball back, turn it over, and be positive. 2 out of 2 tackles, 1 block, 2 clearances, 2 recoveries, 4 out of 6 ground duels, 2 fouls, and 1 slap taken like a champ. Shout out to Gus who put this tweet out. But again here, just nipping in, winning the ball back, strong in the duel, and again, getting it forward quickly. And again, you can't quite see it. Let me just move here out of picture. Son Heung-Min, I haven't got it in the screenshot, but we all know Son Heung-Min is on his bike out of shot there. And it's such a brilliant ball to split that defence. And again, like I said earlier on, West Ham leaving gaps in transition, which is where Spurs could hurt them. We exactly saw this against Chelsea. 1 ball through from Caicedo there for Jackson to run onto it. And again here, 1 ball from Sarr to get through. 1 ball from Sarr to really open everything up. Sonny here. I want to talk about Sonny next because, you know, people said that he couldn't beat his man 1v1 anymore. Not 1 step over, not 2 step overs, 3 step overs. Opens up that space, shifts the ball so quickly as well, which is an underrated part of this goal, away from Todibo. And that, again, this is why I don't mind Dominic Solanke not being involved so much. Look, I want Dominic Solanke, I want him to develop more of a sustained presence in the box. I want him to score more goals, of course. But his ability to drop deeper and kind of be so involved in that build-up, in that kind of middle third of the pitch, from the halfway line to the final third, is so important for Spurs. And when you've then got 2 brilliant one-on-one finishers like Brennan Johnson and Son Heung-Min here, Spurs are going to score so many goals. Spurs have scored more goals and created more XG and had more big chances than any other team in the Premier League so far this season. Dominic Solanke's only got 2 goals. So that shows that his role in this, and we're going to talk about that again a little bit later. And again, he wasn't really involved in this one. But like I said, when I'm talking about the ability that Spurs have got in transition with 1v1 finishes as deadly as Son and Johnson, it doesn't really matter that Solanke is kind of on the edge of the box here because we know we've got players to finish those chances. And that is exactly what Sonny did with such aplomb. And again, straight after that goal, could have been 5 and should have been 5. And again, it comes from Pape Matar Sarr's aggressiveness off the ball. Here, you can see he's already anticipating that pass going into Soler there. So aggressive. Soler gets there, but Sarr just nips him, blindsides him, wins the ball, and the Solanke again here. You can see what Solanke's trying to do. We saw against Brighton his ability to carve through that defence with 1 pass and Johnson to run onto it. Solanke probably should just play that pass into Johnson's path there for him to run onto it. But he waits and he tries to play a really cute little ball, which doesn't quite come off, but it ends up resulting in a chance anyway. He tries to play a ball here that will split the 2 centre-halves for Johnson to run onto it. It doesn't quite work, but Kilman gets across, blocks it, and it comes for Sonny there to finish it, but he just hits the post. So unlucky. And again, Spurs were just so relentless and so aggressive in that second half and really turned things around. And Pape Matar Sarr had so much to do with that, of course. But But yeah, let's talk about Sonny, and then I'll finish on a few other bits with Dom Solanke that I want to talk about. I thought this moment of play really showed for me that he's kind of back at his sharp best. Obviously, he's had a few weeks off, was injured for the United game, injured for the Brighton game, didn't go away on international duty. And I also think it highlights really nicely his relationship with Destiny Udogie that he had down that side. Here, driving at the fullback 1v1, Udogie this time goes round on the overlap, plays that cross back to Maddison, he lays it off to Basuma, and we end up working ourselves into a position where Sonny is on the edge of the box where he's able to curl a shot in at goal. And again, we need to get Son Heung-Min in more of these scoring opportunities. Because look, he might not be that touchline 1v1 winger that we want him to be at his age. Has he got that ability to do that every single week? Probably not. We know that he's probably going to pick up more injuries now, of course, as well. But if you are able to get Son in these central positions more often than not, where he can square up one of the best one-on-one defenders in the league in Aaron Wan-Bissaka, shimmy that way, shimmy back the other way so quickly as well. Obviously, the screenshots don't do it justice, but when you go back and watch this chance, the body feint and the shimmy is so quick, leaves Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's one of the best 1v1 defenders in the league, on ice skates, and wraps it. And again, that is so unlucky and so close. I just thought Sonny was so sharp yesterday. So sharp. So, like I said, I think back to his best, or certainly near back to his best. Dom Solanke is where I want to finish. Because again, I spoke about the fact that he's only scored 2 goals so far in 6 games, but I think he's got 5 goals and assists in all competitions. But the numbers aren't that important for me. I think he might not have scored a goal so far in this team, and I still think he's added something so special to it. Here, there were so many moments yesterday. He won that battle with Todibo all afternoon, especially in the second half. Spurs are able to clear the ball here. Solanke is just able to. There were so many times here. He doesn't do it in this instance, but. I think there was maybe an opportunity before this where Todibo wanted to get tight to him, but with a bouncing ball, Solanke was just happy to back into him and then spin him. This time, Solanke lets the ball run across his body, wins that physical duel with Todibo, and then Spurs are away, gets past him, squares him up 1v1. And again, I spoke about the fact that if Solanke is dropping deeper, like we saw with those average positions, again here, the deepest out of all the forwards, he is facilitating Spurs' ability to be really threatening in transition, because when you go back and look at this, look at the runners that he's got up alongside him. 2 excellent 1v1 finishers in Johnson and Son. Again here, Todibo wins it back, but this little touch to just nick it back off Todibo and get past him. And again, beautiful way to pass into Johnson, has his shot saved. And what I really love about Solanke here is that he follows it up, and he would have got that goal that he deserved yesterday if that rebound falls to him. And again, all 3 of Dom Solanke's goals for Spurs have been tap-ins so far this season. But his hard work off the ball, in transition, winning those duels, facilitating Spurs' ability to hurt teams on the counter-attack, he deserves for every goal to just be a tap-in. It doesn't matter if he's scoring, he's not scoring the most beautiful goals, Harry Kane-esque finishes low and hard across the goalkeeper from outside the box maybe. That will come in time. I do genuinely believe that. But if Solanke was able to get there yesterday from that tap-in, if it just fell to him, it would have been a 4th goal of the season that he would have deserved from the hard work that he's putting in for the team. He's such an amazing facilitator, such a brilliant worker off the ball in terms of his pressing, so brilliant in his link-up play, so smooth in every action that he does, so agile as well. Just an excellent all-round centre-forward, and I think Spurs have definitely got their money's worth so far for sure, and he's justified the price tag. But look, that is where we're going to leave it today. Spurs 4, West Ham 1. I'll be back again after the Alkmaar game on Friday doing one of these. There'll be a stream before then as well where we talk about how we're going to set up. And there's going to be a video on the channel this week as well of me reacting to your unpopular opinions as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to let me know your thoughts on yesterday's performance in the comments as well. And nice one. Up the Spurs. Have a great Sunday. Peace.